Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a date feeling like you gave her your absolute best? You made her laugh, you paid for dinner, you texted her right after you got home. And then a day later, she's already gone cold. No calls back, no excitement in her voice, no sign that she's still thinking about you. And you're left lying in bed, replaying every word, wondering what you did wrong. Here's the hard truth most men don't realize. Being unforgettable to a woman isn't about chasing. It isn't about doing the most, and it definitely isn't about proving yourself. In fact, the very things you thought were making her remember you might be the exact things that made her forget you. Every man wants to be the one who lingers in a woman's mind long after she's gone home. The one she replays in her head at night, the one she tells her friends about, the one she silently compares other men to. But most men unknowingly do the opposite. They push too hard, they give too much, or they smother her with attention. And that's why I want you to hear me clearly. By the end of this video, you will know the 5 simple, powerful shifts that make a woman think about you nonstop. Long after the date, long after the call ends, even long after she tells herself she won't. This matters because attraction is fragile in the beginning. One wrong move, too much pressure, too much neediness, or too little presence, and the spark can die before it ever has a chance to grow. But when you understand how to naturally build attraction, you'll never have to play games or manipulate her. You'll simply show up in a way that makes her lean in, curious, intrigued, and genuinely excited to see you again. So what are those shifts? They're not tricks. They're not lines. They're the quiet, powerful qualities every man has the ability to cultivate. Attentiveness, independence, being a gentleman, offering compliments that go deeper than looks, and creating experiences she'll never forget. Now, before we dive in, I need to say this. If you've ever been ghosted or forgotten after a date, don't click away. This video is for you. And while you're here, hit subscribe, because the lessons on this channel are the very things most men wish they had learned 10 years ago. Don't wait until you've lost another chance to realize it. I know how frustrating it feels when you give your best and she disappears. You sit there thinking, but I did everything right. I was kind. I was available. I showed her how much I cared. Yet instead of drawing her closer, she slips further away. And in those quiet moments, when you're staring at your phone, waiting for a text that never comes, you start questioning yourself. Was I not attractive enough? Was I too boring? Did I say something wrong? And slowly, that confidence you have worked so hard to build begins to crack. I've seen so many good men spiral into self-doubt because of situations just like this. They think they need to be smoother, funnier, or more charming, when in reality what they need isn't more effort. It's more presence. Listen carefully to me here. Women don't remember the man who chases them the hardest. They remember the man who makes them feel something real when he's around. And you don't create that by begging for attention, by bending over backwards, or by losing yourself in the process. You create it by having boundaries, by knowing your worth, by respecting yourself enough to not hand over all of your time, energy, and focus to someone you barely know. That kind of restraint doesn't make you cold. It makes you magnetic. Because she sees that your world doesn't revolve around her, and that is exactly what makes her curious about you. Men forget this all the time. They confuse being attentive with being available 24/7. They confuse kindness with overgiving. They confuse love with neediness. And in that confusion, they accidentally smother the spark until there's nothing left. But the good news? Shifting this isn't complicated. It doesn't require manipulation, and it doesn't require you to play some fake version of yourself. It's about showing up as the strongest, calmest, most grounded version of who you already are. And to show you exactly what I mean, I want to share a story with you. Because sometimes one real example explains this better than any bullet point ever could. Not long ago, someone I know went through this exact struggle. He met a woman he really liked. She was smart, kind, beautiful. The kind of woman who makes you feel like you finally met someone special. From the very first date, ce sont that, he poured himself into her. He texted her constantly. He replied the very second her messages came in. He rearranged his schedule so he could always be available. And when she asked if he wanted to see her, he would drop everything without hesitation. At first, she seemed flattered, but slowly something changed. The excitement in her voice began to fade. The enthusiasm in her texts grew shorter. And within weeks, she started pulling away. He couldn't understand it. He thought he was doing everything right. He thought showing her how much he cared would make her want to stay. Instead, it made her retreat. I remember him sitting there one night, frustrated and confused, asking, "What did I do wrong? I was there for her. I gave her my all." And that's when it hit me. The truth was painfully simple. He gave so much of himself so quickly that there was nothing left for her to discover. He thought love meant proving his worth. But what she really wanted wasn't his constant availability. It was his grounded presence. You see, there's a difference between being attentive and being desperate. There's a difference between caring and overgiving. And this man had blurred those lines without realizing it. He thought being unforgettable meant giving everything away up front. But what she truly craved was the intrigue of a man who had his own life, his own passions, his own balance. Months later, everything changed. Instead of chasing her or any woman, he turned his focus back on himself. He started picking up his hobbies again. He began exercising, investing in his health, pushing forward in his career. He stopped staring at his phone, waiting for validation, and started building a life that made him proud. And then, by chance, they crossed paths again. This time, she saw something different in him. He wasn't clinging. He wasn't desperate for her time. He was centered, confident, living fully. And that shift made all the difference. She couldn't stop noticing him. She couldn't stop thinking about him. Because now, he wasn't just a man who wanted her. He was a man worth remembering. That experience taught me something powerful. Something I want every man watching this to understand. Attraction doesn't grow when you smother it. It grows when you leave space for her to lean in. When you're attentive, when you're confident, when you're independent, you become unforgettable without even trying.
And that brings us here. Because I want you to know exactly how to do this for yourself. The practical, simple shifts you can make starting today. So let's talk about them one by one.
So let's break this down into the 5 shifts that make a woman think about you nonstop. And remember, these aren't tricks. They're not gimmicks. They're simply ways of showing up as the kind of man who naturally draws her attention, even when you're not around. 1, be attentive. Most men hear that and think it just means nodding along and saying, uh-huh, while she talks. But being attentive is so much deeper than that. It means really listening to what she's saying, not just with your ears, but with your presence. When you remember the little things she tells you, her favorite coffee order, the big project she's nervous about at work, the story she shared about her family, and you bring them up later, she feels seen. And here's why that matters. Most women are used to men who only half listen because they're already thinking about what they're going to say next. But when you slow down and give her your full attention, you stand out instantly. It makes her feel like time pauses when she's with you. And that's something she will keep thinking about after you leave.
2, independence is attractive.
This one cannot be overstated. Neediness is the quickest way to kill attraction. If she feels like you're clinging to her for your sense of worth, she'll pull away. But when she sees that you have your own passions, your own goals, and your own life outside of her, it creates respect and curiosity. Independence doesn't mean you don't care about her. It means you care about yourself enough to keep building your own life while sharing it with her. It shows her you're not desperate for validation. You're a man with purpose, and that is magnetic. It also means boundaries. For example, maybe you don't drop everything midweek because you've got work or gym commitments, but you still carve out time for her on Friday night. That balance tells her he values me, but he also values himself. And trust me, she will think about that when you're not around. 3, be a gentleman. This is the simplest shift, yet so many men overlook it. Opening the door, offering your jacket when she's cold, making sure she gets home safe. These aren't outdated gestures. They're signs of respect and care. And they leave an impression far deeper than trying to impress her with big words or flashy things. Women remember the small acts. They replay them in their minds, sometimes years later, because those moments made them feel valued. Being a gentleman doesn't mean being weak or submissive. It means showing strength through kindness and consideration. Men, let me pause for a second because I know some of you watching have lived this already. You've sat awake at night wondering why she lost interest. You've asked yourself over and over, what's wrong with me? This is your wake-up call. Hit subscribe right now so you never repeat the same painful mistakes again. The answers you've been searching for are right here. Don't miss them. 4, non-physical compliments. Yes, she already knows she's pretty, and she hears it all the time. If you want to stand out, go deeper. Notice the way her eyes light up when she talks about something she loves. Tell her you admire her passion, her energy, her humor, or her intelligence. When you compliment a woman on qualities that go beyond the surface, you're speaking to the parts of her that are rarely acknowledged. That's how you make her remember your words long after the date ends. Because beauty fades into the background eventually, but the way you made her feel proud of who she is will last. 5, create memorable moments. Routine is safe, but it's rarely unforgettable. If every date is just coffee or dinner, it can start to blur together. But when you try something new, when you step out of the ordinary, a cooking class, a walk through a part of the city she has never seen, even something spontaneous like grabbing dessert after dinner instead of rushing home, those are the moments that stay in her mind. Spontaneity shows confidence. It shows that you can think on your feet and lead without overthinking. And women love that because it means being with you feels alive, not predictable. Those memories become little sparks she replays when she's alone. And each spark keeps you alive in her mind. So let's take a moment to breathe this in because I've just shared a lot with you. Think of these 5 shifts not as tactics, but as a way of living. A way of showing up differently than most men do. Be attentive, not just to her words, but to her heart. Listen deeply and remember the small details that show her she's more than just another date. Be independent, a man with his own passions, his own rhythm, his own life. The man who knows his worth without needing constant reassurance. That's the kind of man who commands respect without ever asking for it. Be a gentleman, not because you're trying to impress her, but because it's who you are. Small, consistent acts of kindness carry a weight that flashy gestures never can. Offer non-physical compliments. Notice the fire in her voice, the way she laughs, the energy she brings into a room. Those words are the ones she will replay in her mind because they reach a part of her that beauty alone can't touch. And finally, create memorable moments because routine is forgettable, but spontaneity and new experiences create sparks she'll carry with her long after the night is over. When you put these together, you stop chasing. You stop overthinking. You stop exhausting yourself trying to force attraction. Instead, you step into the role of a man who is present, grounded, and confident. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop chasing and start showing up as your best self, she won't just notice you. She'll think about you nonstop. She'll feel the space you've left, and in that space, she'll lean in. Not because you manipulated her, but because you showed her the kind of man she can't forget. And here's what I want you to remember. These aren't tricks. They're not mind games. They're not manipulation. And they're not about pretending to be someone you're not. These are ways of living. They're the quiet, steady habits of a man who knows his worth. Because at the end of the day, you don't need to prove yourself to a woman. You don't need to perform for her attention. The right kind of attraction is never forced. It's earned naturally when you show up as the strongest version of yourself. Women remember men who carry themselves with presence. Men who know how to listen, who respect themselves enough to set boundaries, who are kind without being weak and confident without being arrogant. Those are the men who stand out. Those are the men who stay on her mind long after the date ends. And if you've made it this far into this video, I know that's what you want. You want to be more than just another number in her phone. You want to be the man she replays in her thoughts, the man she quietly measures other men against, the man she can't quite shake, no matter how busy her day is. That's not about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it with intention. It's about knowing who you are, valuing your own life, and inviting her into it, instead of throwing your whole world at her feet and hoping she stays. So let this be your turning point. Let this be the moment where you stop chasing love and start attracting it by how you live. Because once you step into that version of yourself, you'll never go back to begging for attention again. You won't have to. You've watched this far because you want better love and stronger attraction. Subscribe now. And if you're still not ready, tell me in the comments why. Because your story matters here, even if it's hesitant.